IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin, Doctor, your habit coach, and today with us in the hot seat we have Tusharika. Now she says, why is it so difficult to get ourselves to wake up early in the morning? All my motivation and willpower dies out in the process of coming up and waking up out of sleep. How to get myself to wake up each morning early? I've been trying to do this for years and keep failing. So there are many things to unpack in this simple question. The first is the most important, which is that Tusharika is relying on motivation and willpower. And as you know, on the Habit Coach podcast and as a habit coach, motivation and willpower are bad words. We don't use them. It's almost like giving a gali to somebody. We do not use the word motivation. We do not use the word willpower because those are two things that we cannot rely on. They are the enemy. We've been taught to use motivation in our life, which is why we keep failing at these things. Instead, we have to learn how to create a process and a system of habits. So we have to learn to not rely on motivation, but to rely on the system and process to start waking up early or get whatever change that we want in our life in place. So the first 2-3 things is that she's saying that I want to start waking up early. So Tusharika, why do you want to start waking up early? I keep asking people this when people say that I want to wake up early. Why do you want to wake up early? Do you have something to do in order to wake up early? Or is it something that you want to do because everyone tells you that you should be waking up early? Maybe you are on a different biorhythm altogether and you need to sleep in or you need to wake up later. Maybe you spend more time awake at night and that is your most productive time. So you have to figure out what is the reason for wanting to wake up early. If you don't have a strong reason to wake up early or something to look forward to when you wake up early, there is no point trying to wake up early. You might as well get as much sleep as you can. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when you try making a change, you do not try making a dramatic big change. That means you don't suddenly go from waking up at 9 o'clock to waking up at 6 o'clock. That's 3 hours. There is no way that your body will be able to adjust. You will require a lot more effort and energy to try and make that change. Instead, what you have to do is you have to try and make it as small as possible. So if you right now wake up, say at 9, tomorrow onwards start waking up at 8:30, just half an hour earlier. After a couple of weeks, when waking up at 8:30 becomes easy, start moving it to 8 o'clock. When 8 o'clock becomes easy, move it to 7:30. Like that, you slowly start reducing it so that it is not a shock to your system to suddenly start waking up early. The reason why you've been failing is because you've been relying on motivation. And motivation tells you that if it is not big, if it is not fantastic, if it is not huge, if it is not difficult to do, there is no point doing it. This is what we have to change in our lives. We have to change this style of thinking completely. And instead, we have to realize what is the easiest thing I can do in order to make this happen? What is the easiest thing I can do in order to make this a habit? And that way, you will start making that change in your life. Okay? Apart from that, there are many habits that I've discussed in the Habit Coach podcast. Check them out. Where to place your alarm when going to bed so that when you wake up early, you have to get out of bed to check the alarm. Things like have something to look forward to when you wake up. There's another podcast on splashing water on your face, the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning. There are all sorts of things that you can start doing in order to start waking up early. But the essence comes down to what I just said. Why do you want to wake up early? And don't make a big change. Just start gradually, half an hour at a time. The same thing applies to people who want to start sleeping early. If you want to stop sleeping at 2 o'clock, don't suddenly decide to start sleeping at 9 o'clock. You are going to fail. Start sleeping half an hour earlier. And that is the way to start making these changes. Now, if you want to be featured on the next Habit Coach podcast hot seat, don't forget to click on the link below in the description. Send me your question. Give me a nice juicy description of what it is that you want me to answer, and I will do my best to answer it. Because awesome lives, they start with awesome habits. Usually in a podcast, it's me who speaks to you and you who listens. But I've been seeing your comments and it's time. It's me listening to you. Following the overwhelming success of this podcast, the good folks at IVM Podcast Network have decided to come up with a Kannada adaptation of the show for those who prefer listening to it in that language. Do make sure you let your Kannada speaking friends know about this as well. So start these habits and share with us your progress using the hashtag #TheHabitCoach. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME 180. That's Awesome 180.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Advertising is Dead, Varun speaks with Anish Bastine, co-founder of Swami Drinks. They discuss the company's genesis and what it's like building a non-traditional premium product like tonic in the Indian market. This week on Cock and Bull, Cyrus Antriksha and I talk about Spotify's issues with Neil Young and other artists in wake of the controversy with Joe Rogan. On The Wire Siddharth talks to journalist and author Amitav Kumar about his novel on fake news, A Time Outside This Time. The Pulyabazi hosts discuss what the government spends on them most in their series Ek Sawal Kahin Jawab. And on Smarter with Sid, Siddharth introduces us to the Pomodoro time management technique. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, please do tell a friend. It really does help us when you spread the word about our podcast. And I'd also like to ask you if you could rate or recommend wherever you listen to our podcast. And speaking of where you listen to this show, if you're on an Android phone, do check out our new Android app. We have a brand new app with a brand new listening experience. Definitely check it out. I think you will enjoy it. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Love fighting?
We've got you covered.
Check out our show, The Fighting Goat, where we, the voices of the internet, Arjun Chipalkatti and Somesh Kamra, bring to you crazy weekly action on your favorite combat show, The Fighting Goat.
Be it commentary, breakdown, predictions, analysis of styles and techniques.
And of course, your round of favorite fighters.
You can listen to us every Thursday on the IVM Podcast app, website, and all major podcast streaming platforms.